Episode 2. The Seven Stars Align. Jade woke to the scent of ancient stone and something else, something that smelled like magic itself. Her eyes fluttered open, and she found herself lying on a plush velvet chaise in a room that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. Crystalline chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting rainbow light across walls covered in intricate tapestries, depicting impossible labyrinths that seemed to shift and move when she wasn't looking directly at them. She sat up slowly, her head still spinning from everything that had happened: the bookstore, the stranger, the portal, and him. As if summoned by her thoughts, the door opened and Jareth entered, carrying a silver tray with a tea service. He moved with the grace of a dancer, every gesture deliberate and elegant. In the soft light of the chamber, he was even more striking than she remembered. His wild blonde hair seemed to defy gravity, and those mismatched eyes watched her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Ah, you're awake," he said, his voice smooth as silk and just as dangerous. "I was beginning to wonder if the journey had been too much for you. It's not every day one discovers their nexus and tears a hole between dimensions." Jade's mouth was dry. She tried to speak, coughed, and tried again. "Where am I?" "My castle, at the heart of the labyrinth," Jareth replied, setting the tray on a small table near her. He poured tea with practiced ease, the liquid steaming and fragrant. "You're quite safe here, I assure you. The Goblin Kingdom exists outside the normal flow of time and space. That man who was hunting you couldn't follow, even if he knew where to look." "Who was he?" Jade accepted the teacup with trembling hands, grateful for something to hold on to. "He said I was valuable, that people would kill for my power." "What power? I don't understand any of this." Jareth settled into a high-backed chair across from her, crossing one leg over the other in a pose of casual elegance. "You truly don't know, do you? How delightful. And how very dangerous." He studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Tell me, Jade, have you ever wondered why you've always felt different? Why you've never quite fit into the world you were born into?" The question hit too close to home. Jade lowered her gaze to her tea, watching the steam rise in delicate spirals. "This spent my whole childhood in foster care. I never fit in anywhere." "That's because you were never meant to," Jareth said softly. "You are something that exists perhaps once in 1,000 generations across all of reality. You are a nexus, my dear, a being with the power to move between worlds, to see all possibilities, to connect realities that were never meant to touch. In the wrong hands, that power could reshape existence itself." Jade shook her head, denial rising in her throat. "That's not possible. I'm nobody. I'm just a girl who works in a bookstore." "You were a girl who worked in a bookstore," Jareth corrected, leaning forward. "But that life ended the moment your power awakened. There's no going back, precious thing. The question now is what you choose to do with what you are." The weight of his words settled over her like a physical thing. Jade set down her teacup before she could drop it, her hands shaking. "I don't know how to do any of this. I don't know how to use this power, or control it, or even understand it." "Which is precisely why you found me," Jareth said, and for the first time, his smile softened into something almost genuine. "Whether you knew it consciously or not, when you opened that portal, you were reaching out for help. And some part of you, some instinct, led you here, to me." He stood and extended his hand to her, an echo of the gesture he'd made when she was fleeing through the portal. "I can teach you, Jade. I can help you understand what you are and what you're meant to do. But I need to show you something first. Do you trust me?" It was an absurd question. She'd known him for all of 20 minutes, and half of that time she'd been unconscious. He was a character from a movie she'd watched 100 times, except he was real and standing in front of her, offering her answers she desperately needed. Jade took his hand. The moment their skin touched, the world exploded into light. But this time, instead of overwhelming chaos, the visions came with clarity. Jareth was guiding her, showing her how to navigate the infinite streams of reality. She saw herself, dozens of versions, hundreds, all living different lives across different worlds. But there was something else too, the darkness gathering at the edges of the multiverse, something vast and hungry that wanted to devour everything. And she saw 7 lights, 7 stars that burned bright enough to hold back the darkness. One of them was Jareth himself, standing in the labyrinth with crystal spheres dancing in his palms. The others were scattered across realities, waiting to be found. The vision faded, and Jade found herself back in the chamber, still holding Jareth's hand. He was watching her with an expression of profound understanding. "You saw it," he said quietly, "the darkness that's coming, and the champions you need to stand against it." "7," Jade whispered. "I need to find 7. "And you just found your first?" Jareth replied with a slight bow. "I pledge myself to your service, Nexus. Not because I'm a hero, but because I've seen what that darkness will do to all the worlds I've ever cared about, including this one." Jade's heart was racing, but not from fear this time. Something about this felt right, felt inevitable, like all her life had been leading to this moment. "I don't even know how to find the others." "But you do," Jareth said, his fingers tightening around hers. "Your power will guide you. The same way it brought you to me, it will lead you to each of them. All you have to do is trust yourself and take the first step." He released her hand and moved to a window that looked out over the labyrinth. From this height, Jade could see the impossible maze stretching in every direction, paths that looped back on themselves, stairs that led to nowhere, and walls that seemed to breathe. "The second star is bright and burning," Jareth said, his voice taking on an almost prophetic quality. "A god who fell from grace but never lost his cunning. You'll find him in a cage of his own making, waiting for someone brave enough, or foolish enough, to set him free." Jade stood, her legs unsteady but her resolve growing stronger. "Loki." Jareth turned to her with a delighted smile. "Oh, you are going to be magnificent. Yes, the god of mischief himself. Though I warn you, he won't make it easy. Loki trusts no one." "Then I'll just have to change his mind," Jade said, surprised by the confidence in her own voice. "That's the spirit," Jareth purred, moving toward her with that dancer's grace. He circled her slowly, studying her like she was a puzzle he was eager to solve. "But first, you need to understand how to open portals intentionally. What you did in the bookstore was raw instinct, uncontrolled and dangerous. I can teach you focus." For the next several hours, Jareth guided Jade through the basics of her power. It was exhausting and exhilarating in equal measure. He taught her to visualize the world she wanted to reach, to feel for the threads that connected all realities, and to pull them toward her with gentle insistence, rather than desperate force. "The multiverse is like a grand tapestry," he explained, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside her in a pose that seemed at odds with his regal bearing. "Every world is a thread, and you, my dear, are the needle. You can weave paths between them, but you must be precise. Tear too hard and you'll unravel everything." Jade focused on his face in front of her, reaching out with that strange new sense she was only beginning to understand. She thought of Loki, of what she knew about him from mythology and movies. A trickster god, cunning and wounded, imprisoned for his crimes but never truly defeated. A spark of light appeared in the air, growing slowly into a window between worlds. Through it, Jade could see a strange cell, all white surfaces and transparent walls, and a figure sitting within, dark-haired and radiating boredom. "Excellent," Jareth breathed, impressed. "You're natural. Now hold it steady while I anchor it." He placed his palm against the edge of the portal, and Jade felt the strained ease as his magic reinforced her own. The window solidified, becoming the doorway they could step through. "After you," Jareth said with a theatrical gesture. "Let's go recruit a god." Jade stepped through the portal and emerged in what looked like a high-tech prison cell. The man she'd seen through the window looked up, his green eyes sharp with intelligence and wariness. He was handsome in a way that was almost dangerous, all sharp angles and sardonic smiles. Well, Loki said, rising to his feet with languid grace, this is unexpected. A Nexus and a Goblin King. My day has become considerably more interesting. You know what I am? Jade asked, surprised. Darling, I'm the god of mischief, and I've had nothing to do for months but observe the threats of fate, Loki replied, moving closer to the transparent wall between them. Of course I know what you are. The question is, what do you want with me? Jareth leaned against the wall beside the portal, content to let Jade take the lead. She stepped forward, meeting Loki's gaze directly. I want to offer you freedom, she said simply, and a purpose. Loki laughed, the sound bitter and sharp. Oh, I've heard that before. Let me guess, you need a villain for your little hero's quest? Someone expendable to throw at the enemy while the real champion saved the day. No, Jade said firmly. I need someone clever enough to see solutions others miss. Someone who understands that the world isn't black and white. Someone who's made mistakes but is willing to try to do better. The laughter died in Loki's throat. He stared at her with an intensity that would have been frightening if Jade hadn't already faced down terror in that bookstore. You're serious, he said finally, his voice quieter. You actually believe I could be one of your champions? I don't believe it, Jade replied. I know it. I've seen it. You're one of 7 stars that can hold back the darkness that's coming. I need you, Loki. Not the version of you that everyone expects, but the real you. The one who loves his mother and reads poetry and just wants to be seen as more than a shadow. The silence that followed was profound. Loki's carefully constructed mask cracked, just for a moment, and Jade saw the wounded man beneath the god's arrogance. You see entirely too much, Nexus, Loki said softly. Very well. I'll join your fellowship, if only because I'm desperately curious to see where this leads. He glanced at the cell around him. Of course, I'm somewhat confined at the moment. Jade looked at the high-tech locks, the barriers designed to hold a god, and smiled. She reached out with her power, found the threads that made up this prison, and simply asked them to move aside. The cell door swung open with a soft hiss. Loki stared at it, then at her, his expression a mixture of awe and something that might have been the beginning of respect. Judas unlocked an Asgardian containment cell with a thought. You, beautiful, terrifying creature. He stepped out of his prison and immediately tested the boundaries of his freedom, stretching like a cat. Then he turned to Jade and took her hand, bringing it to his lips in a gesture that was both mocking and somehow genuine. I am yours to command, my Nexus, he said, his green eyes dancing with mischief. Where to next on this grand recruitment tour? Jareth pushed off from the wall, his mismatched eyes meeting Loki's in a look of mutual recognition. 2 tricksters, 2 outcasts, acknowledging each other. The mortal poet, he said. Edgar Allan Poe. He's a 3rd star. The mortal? Loki raised an eyebrow. Interesting choice. He's not just any mortal, Jade said, feeling the truth of it in her bones. He's a man who understood darkness and beauty in equal measure. Someone who looked into the abyss and wrote poetry about what he saw. She closed her eyes and reached out again, following the threads of fate. This time, the portal opened more easily, her power growing stronger with each use. Through the doorway, she could see a candlelit room in what looked like the 19th century, and a dark-haired man hunched over a desk, writing with desperate intensity. The 3 of them stepped through into a reality that smelled of ink and melancholy. Edgar Allan Poe looked up from his work, his eyes haunted and brilliant. For a long moment, he simply stared at them, his quill dripping ink onto the manuscript before him. Either I have finally succumbed to complete madness, he said, in a voice like smoke and honey, or the supernatural has decided to manifest in my study. Given my work, I'm not entirely certain which I would prefer. Neither, I'm afraid, Jade said gently, moving closer. We're real, Mr. Poe, and we need your help. He studied her with an intensity that reminded her of Loki, but where the god's gaze was sharp and calculating, Poe's was deep and melancholy. You have the look of someone who walks between worlds, young lady. Are you death, come to claim me at last? I'm something else entirely, Jade replied. My name is Jade, and I'm a Nexus, a being who can travel between realities. And I know this is going to sound impossible, but there's a darkness coming that threatens all worlds, including yours. I need 7 champions to stand against it, and you're one of them. Poe set down his skill with careful precision. You say this to a man who has spent his life exploring darkness, who has written of death and madness and the thin veil between life and whatever lies beyond. Why would I be of any use against a cosmic threat? Because you understand that the greatest battles aren't always fought with weapons, Jade said, kneeling beside his desk so they were at eye level. You fight with words, with ideas, with the power to make people feel. The darkness that's coming feeds on despair and isolation. I need someone who can remind people why hope and beauty matter, even in the darkest times. Poe's eyes glistened, and for a moment, Jake thought he might refuse. Then he laughed, a sound that was equal parts bitter and amazed. Mad, he muttered, completely mad. But then, all the best things are. He stood, gathering a few precious manuscripts and tucking them into his coat. I accept your offer, strange Nexus from beyond the veil. I've written about the fantastic for so long, it seems only fitting that I should finally live it. He offered her his arm with old-world courtesy, and Jade took it, feeling warmth spread through her chest. 3 champions now, 3 stars burning bright. Jareth opened the next portal before Jade even had to ask, his understanding of her purpose growing more intuitive with each passing moment. The Dark Warrior, he said, the one who felt the shadows but carries light in his soul still. Through the doorway, Jade saw a frozen wasteland and a massive ship that looked like it had been built for war. Kylo Ren. She recognized him instantly, the tall figure in black, his mask hiding his face, his presence radiating conflict and barely contained rage. The 4 of them stepped through into the cold, and immediately, a lightsaber ignited, its red blade casting crimson light across the snow. Kylo Ren stood before them, ready for battle. Who dares? He began, his voice distorted by the mask, but Jade stepped forward, unafraid. My name is Jade, she said, her voice carrying clearly over the howl of the wind. I'm here to offer you something you've been searching for your entire life. And what would that be? His hand tightened on his lightsaber. Balance, Jade said simply. Not the light side or the dark side, but something in between. A place where you don't have to choose, where you can be both the Ben Solo who loved his family and a Kylo Ren who understands power. I need a warrior who knows both sides of the Force, who can fight with everything he has without losing himself. Kylo Ren stood very still. Behind his mask, Jade could feel the war raging within him, the eternal conflict between light and dark. You don't know what you're asking, he said finally, his voice raw. I've done terrible things. I know, Jade replied gently, and I'm offering you a chance to do something good. To use all that power, all that passion, to protect instead of destroy. You don't have to be your grandfather's legacy or your uncle's disappointment. You can just be you. Slowly, Kylo Ren reached up and removed his mask. The face beneath was young and scarred and achingly vulnerable. Then Solo looked at Jade with eyes that held a lifetime of pain. If I do this, he said quietly, there's no guarantee I won't fall again. Then we'll catch you, Jade promised. That's what family does. The word hung in the frozen air between them. Family. The thing Ben Solo had lost and Kylo Ren had destroyed. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Ben deactivated his lightsaber and dropped the one knee in the snow. I'm yours, he said simply, for whatever that's worth. Jade moved forward and placed her hand on his shoulder, feeling him tremble under her touch. It's worth everything. 4 champions now, 4 stars against the darkness. The next portal opened onto a scene of violence. Jade found herself in what looked like a military facility under attack. Soldiers in tactical gear were fighting against a single figure, a man with a metal arm who moved with deadly precision. The Winter Soldier. Bucky Barnes. Jade watched as he took down 3 men without hesitation, his movements efficient and brutal. But when he turned and saw her standing there, something flickered in those dead eyes. Recognition, confusion, pain. Stand down, Jade said, her voice calm but commanding. I'm not your enemy. I don't have enemies, Bucky said flatly, his metal hand flexing. Only targets. That's what they programmed you to believe, Jade replied, stepping closer despite the danger. Behind her, she felt Kylo Ren tense, ready to protect her if necessary. But you're more than that. You're James B. Cannon Barnes. You're a soldier who fought in a war you believed in. You're Steve Rogers' best friend. And you're one of my champions. I don't know who that is, Bucky said, but his voice cracked slightly. Yes, you do, Jade insisted, moving close enough now that he could strike her down if he chose. Somewhere inside, you remember. You remember being good, being whole, being loved. I can help you find that again, but you have to let me. She reached out slowly and placed her hand over his metal one. The moment they touched, she pushed her power into him, not to control, but to heal. She found the fractures in his mind, the places where his memories had been torn apart and stitched back together wrong, and she simply asked them to remember their true shape. Bucky gasped, his eyes going wide. Images flooded through him. Steve, the war, falling, the long decades of torture and control, and finally, buried beneath all the pain, himself. His real self. He collapsed to his knees, and Jade went with him, holding his metal hand in both of hers as he shook with the force of remembering. I've done terrible things, he choked out, echoing Kylo Ren's words. I know, Jade said gently, and we'll deal with that. But right now, I need you to come with me. I need the soldier who never gave up, even when they tried to erase him completely. Bucky looked up at her, his eyes clear for the first time in decades. Who are you? Someone who sees you, Jade replied. All of you. And someone who wants to give you a chance to be a hero again. He took her offered hand and let her pull him to his feet. 5 champions now. 5 stars burning against the night. The 6th portal opened onto something from a nightmare. Jade found herself standing in a boiler room that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. Pipes hissed, shadows moved with their own will, and everywhere, the walls seemed to bleed reality itself. And standing in the center of it all, roofed in steam and darkness, was Freddy Krueger. He turned to look at them, and his burnt face split into a terrible grin. Well, 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 what do we have here? Fresh meat walking into my domain. You kids lost, or just really, really stupid? Jade felt Jarth tense beside her, felt Loki's magic beginning to gather, but she held up a hand to stop them. She stepped forward alone. I'm not here to fight you, Freddy, she said calmly. I'm here to offer you a deal. He laughed, the sound like razors on glass. Oh, this should be good. What could you possibly offer me, little girl? I'm the stuff of nightmares. I'm immortal in the dream realm. What do I need that you could give me? Purpose, Jade said simply. Right now, you're trapped in the dreams of Elm Street, killing teenagers over and over in an endless cycle. But what if I told you there was a bigger stage? A darkness so vast that even you would be small by comparison. What if I offered you a chance to be the nightmare that scares the real monsters? Freddy's grin faded slightly, his burnt features becoming calculating. You're saying there's something out there worse than me? Much worse, Jade confirmed. Something that wants to devour all realities, including the dream realm. When it comes, there won't be any more nightmares, because there won't be any more dreamers. Everything ends. She moved closer, close enough to see the intelligence in his eyes, the cunning that made him so dangerous. Or, you can join me. Use what you are to fight something that actually deserves it. 7 champions against the dark, and you're one of them. Not because you're good, but because you're exactly the right kind of bad. Freddy studied her for a long moment, his clawed hand tapping against his leg. Eddie laughed again, but this time it was genuine, almost delighted. You got guts, sweetheart. Coming into my world, into my domain, and trying to recruit me like I'm some kind of hero. I like it, I really do. He extended one clawed hand toward her. Alright, Nexus, I'm in. But I'm warning you, I don't play well with others. Shake, tug, let. Sam, rule, hold Devino, only building wider, serving, lightly chimed in from behind her. You'll fit right in. Jade took Freddy's hand, feeling the strange, dreamlike quality of his existence. 6 champions now. 6 stars. 1 more to find. The final portal opened on the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Jade had dreamed of this castle her entire life, read about it countless times, watched the movies until she could quote them by heart, and now she was standing in its corridors, searching for the last of her champions. She found him in the dungeons, in a classroom that smelled of potions, ingredients, and old parchment. Severus Snape stood with his back to the door, his black robes making him look like a piece of living shadow. I've been expecting you, he said without turning around. The headmaster warned me that something unusual was coming, though I must admit, even in a world of magic, a Nexus is extraordinary. Then you know why I'm here, Jade said softly. I do. Finally, Snape turned to face her. His dark eyes were inscrutable, his expression severe. And my answer is no. Jade felt her heart sink, but she didn't back away. May I ask why? Because I am not a champion, Miss Anderson, Snape said coldly. I am a man who has made a career of wrong choices, of serving dark masters and betraying those who trusted me. I am useful, perhaps, skilled, certainly, but I am not heroic, and I never will be. I'm not asking you to be a hero, Jade replied, moving closer. I'm asking you to be exactly what you are. A man who understands sacrifice. Someone who spent his entire life protecting others from the shadows, never asking for recognition or reward. Someone who knows that sometimes the greatest love is the kind no one ever sees. Snape's mask cracked, just for a moment. You know about. I know you loved Lily Potter, Jade said gently. I know you've spent years protecting her son, even though it causes you pain every time you look at him. I know you're one of the bravest people in any reality, and I know that you're the 7th star, the last one I need. Please, Severus, I can't do this without you. For a long moment, Snape said nothing. He simply looked at her, this young woman who saw through all his carefully constructed walls. Then, slowly, he inclined his head. Very well, he said quietly. I will join your fellowship. Though I warn you, I'm not pleasant company. None of us are, apparently, Sheriff said with a smirk, appearing in the doorway with the others behind him. Welcome to the family, Potions Master. Jade looked at the 7 of them standing together in Snape's classroom. The Goblin King, a trickster god, a melancholy poet, a fallen Jedi, a former assassin, a nightmare made flesh, and a wizard who lived in shadows. 7 broken, brilliant, impossible men. 7 champions. Her champions. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. All of you. I know this isn't what any of you expected, but I promise you, we're gonna do something incredible together. First, Loki said, his eyes dancing with mischief, we need a base of operations. Somewhere that exists outside normal time and space, where we can plan and train without interference. The labyrinth, Jareth said immediately. It's already protected by ancient magic, and is big enough to house an army if necessary. Plus, the goblins could use some excitement in their lives. Goblins? Bucky asked warily. Oh, you haven't lived until you've met my subjects, Jareth replied with a grin. They're chaos incarnate. You'll love them. Jade felt something warm spreading through her chest as she listened to them begin to plan. For the first time since her power awakened, she didn't feel lost or overwhelmed. She felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. There's something else, Snape said quietly, drawing everyone's attention. And Nexus doesn't just need champions to fight for her. She needs anchors. People who can stabilize her power and keep her from being torn apart by the infinite realities she touches. What are you saying? Jade asked. Snape met her eyes, and for once, his expression was almost gentle. I'm saying that the seven of us aren't just here to fight by your side. We're bound to you now, metaphysically. Your power resonates with ours. As you grow stronger, we'll need to forge deeper connections, or the strain of holding all those realities in your mind will destroy you. Deeper connections? Kylo Ren asked. He means we need to become more than just allies, Loki said, understanding dawning in his eyes. We need to become family, in every sense of the word. Jade felt her cheeks heat. She looked at each of them in turn. These 7 incredible, damaged, wonderful men. The idea that she could have any kind of romantic connection with one of them seemed impossible. The idea that she might have that connection with all of them was overwhelming. I know it's unorthodox, Snape continued, but the magic doesn't lie. The 7 of us are meant to be your anchors, and you are meant to be our center, our nexus. Well, Freddie said with a wicked grin, this just got a lot more interesting. Jade laughed despite herself, the sound a little hysterical. I went from working in a bookstore to leading a fellowship of interdimensional warriors who apparently need to become my family. Is this really my life now? It is, Edgar Allan Poe said, moving to stand beside her. He took her hand in his touch warm and steady. And I, for one, am honored to be a part of it. One by one, the others moved closer, forming a circle around her. Jareth put a hand on her shoulder. Loki took her other hand. Kylo Ren, Bucky, Freddie, and Snape each found a way to connect, creating a web of touch and presence. And in that moment, Jade felt it. The way their energies aligned with hers, the way they each brought something unique that she needed. Jareth's wild magic, Loki's cunning, Edgar's deep understanding of the human soul, Kylo's raw power, Bucky's unbreakable will, Freddie's mastery of fear and dreams, Snape's sacrifice and dedication. 7 stars, burning bright against the darkness. And she was a constellation that connected them all. So, what happens now? Bucky asked quietly. Jade took a deep breath, feeling the weight of destiny settling onto her shoulders like a mantle. But with the 7 beside her, it didn't feel crushing. It felt right. Now, she said, her voice stronger than she'd ever heard it, we go to the labyrinth, we train, we plan, and we prepare for what's coming. Because whatever that darkness is, it's gonna learn that it chose the wrong universe to threaten. Beautifully said, Jareth purred. Shall we, my dear Nexus? He opened the portal with a flourish, and through it, Jade could see the impossible beauty of the labyrinth, stretching out under a sky filled with stars. Her new home. Their new home. One by one, her 7 champions stepped through, and finally, with her heart pounding and her power singing in her veins, Jade Alexandra Anderson followed them into her new life. The Nexus had awakened. The 7 stars had aligned. And the real adventure was just beginning. As the portal closed behind them, the darkness that had been gathering at the edges of the multiverse paused in its endless hunger. It had felt the formation of this new fellowship, this constellation of power and purpose, and for the first time in eons, the darkness felt something it had never experienced before. Uncertainty. The battle for all realities was coming, but for the first time, the outcome was no longer certain, because a young woman with red curls and an untamable spirit had done something no one expected. She had given 7 broken souls a reason to fight. And that, as the multiverse was about to discover, changed everything.